Hi, I'm Tim Roble, and welcome to another episode of Adventure Athlete, designing your overland adventure or expedition truck. So we're going to talk about starting with a clean sheet of paper and kind of what I did on my second real big build, Oscar Mike, my 6-wheel drive LMTV with a 28-foot box. I started with a clean sheet of paper sitting in my expedition truck out in Johnson Valley in 24-degree weather as I'm feeding my little cubic mini stove little pieces of wood to stay warm. And I thought, what if I could design anything I wanted? What would that look like? So I kind of started with the habitat and thought about, okay, think like a 3 or a 5-year-old with a huge imagination. Like, what would I actually want? Where am I going to use this vehicle? And what does that look like? So at that time I was like, okay, I want a big garage to have my Can-Am and 3 motorcycles and my paramotor, my trials bike, a mountain bike, all my gear, dive gear, everything. I want all of that in one box. Then you have to get realistic about, okay, what's going to actually fit in a platform. Originally I designed Oscar Mike as a 32-foot box, and proportions didn't look good as I was building it, so I had to change up my plan on that. So that's just my thought process of going down the road. Now, one thing that I didn't consider is actually the size of the rig, and the size of the rig, the bigger you go, the more limited you are to areas that you can camp. So for myself, I like BLM and Forest Service land. I really don't like to pay for a camp spot, but we usually spend 3 months a year down in Newport Dunes, which is, for me, is my ultimate summer training grounds. Bicycling, inline skating, trail running, kayaking, scuba diving, everything is just right there. So it definitely makes sense to do that. It's expensive and we save up for it all year to do that. But that's what kind of led me to my next build, which was the Humvee. And I didn't just source out the Humvee. Then this, stay with me a little bit here. What I was thinking is I want something to fit in a parking spot. And so traditionally, my original plan for Oscar Mike was going to be a Ford F550 chassis, the 170 length, and I was going to build a custom habitat for that, which would have been good, but it was not going to fit in a parking spot and still limit my ability. And then it wasn't going to be big enough for my big box and my big plan of going real super big. So that's why I kind of have this 2-truck platform that I'm running right now. I sought out the Humvee primarily seeking that chassis of the 1165, which is a little heavier due to your spring package, bigger axles, bigger brakes. And I did that because I knew I was going to put weight on it. Talking about weight, you're always trying to build things as light and robust and easy to fix going down the road. So we'll talk about that a little bit. For myself, I source the materials to build these vehicles from sources locally, but available throughout the whole United States. So the 40 thousandths aluminum that I use on this, a lot of guys that use that on modified cars as far as like stock car type racing, they take these panels and bend them up into nice shapes. And they're available throughout the United States. Easy to find a 4x8 or a 4x10 panel to do a repair. So that's what I choose. I'm a welder fabricator with 41 years of experience, product design, development. I've probably done well over 100 off-road roll cages, as well as I think I'm up to 11 off-road complete cars that I've built, pre-runners and race cars. So I've done a lot of fabricating. I know that I like the ductility of steel versus aluminum, and for me it's easier just to fix. Ductility means you can get more flex time out of that before that actually fractures or breaks from fatigue. And so that's why I use steel. Oscar Mike is done out of 2x2 by 065 wall. These are all the design parameters you got to kind of think about. What is your skill set, and what are you going to go with? Which kind of brings me to my next little chase on this is what is your skill set, and what skill set are you willing to learn to build your own overland type vehicle? And we all have different needs. If you base it on the mission that you're going to use it for, maybe it's a weekend camper and you're great with a Jeep with a rooftop tent or a ground tent. That totally makes sense. Easy, lightweight, practical. You can package everything in Pelican cases, labeled well, maybe a refrigerator with a small solar system on it. Can be anything from a Jeep to a van. Now you're not having to construct a habitat. It's already constructed for you. Now you just got to build out the interior. Plenty of stuff on YouTube University to really go and learn how to weld, cut. There is nothing seriously hard about building this truck sitting behind me. But if you're not comfortable with that, the LMTV, FMTV platform, family of medium tactical vehicles, you can get a four-wheel drive with a communication box on it that's 14 or 16 feet and just build out the inside of that. And that's a neat way to go for about a $30,000 investment. That's a serious off-road vehicle that, in my opinion, once you do one military truck and you figure out how easy they are to work on, you really I don't want to go back to a civilian-based something. So that's why I selected the Humvee for the next build. So hopefully I'm not too all over the place on all of this, but once you define what your mission is and where you want to sleep, then you want to think about your cook system. What type of cook system? Are you good with a portable Coleman grill that you're going to use inside during inclement weather, and then you're going to take outside when it's nice to cook? Do you want a barbecue food? What type of foods do you eat? Do you need refrigeration in a freezer, or can you use an ice chest? I thought I could use an ice chest back in the day, and for myself, it always ends up with wet something. No matter how double bagging freezer bags, the water gets in there with the ice. So for myself, I like the Snowmaster Expedition series. It takes very little energy to run. They're probably on the most expensive on the market, but I feel like that's a really good place to start, and then work your way down from there on what's going to fit your budget and needs. So you're going to need to power that. I would say don't spend a whole lot of time with lead acid batteries. I would stay looking at lithium ion phosphate and somewhere around the 200 to 300 amp hour range, depending on what you're going to do. And now you got to pair that with a charge controller and solar panels. And I would make sure that you got a charge controller that is expandable in case you need more solar, because that's what happens is you design something and then you add more features, or you didn't think about those features. Like, are you going to watch a TV? Are you going to use Starlink? How are you going to connect to the internet? All those little parameters, starting with that clean sheet of paper. Write down your dream build and what you're going to do that's going to be mission specific or multiple missions. Maybe you're going to have it as a weekender. You want to stay a week and then go into town and refuel. How much water do you drink a day? For myself, I use about 1 gallon to 1.5 gallons a day in Oscar Mike. That's with a shower, and that's with drinking water and doing dishes, because I'm really frugal on that. If you notice in Oscar Mike on and the Humvee, you notice that I use sink sprayers for the dishes. Dawn Power Wash, that works out really well. Limited amount of water to get a clean plate. That's what I think about. For myself, you're going to ask yourself for a shower, toiletries. How much do you want to go dig a hole out in the area and use that, or do you want to take a bucket with a lid and a trash bag? What's your overall thought on all of that? For me, I like the Thedford Curve porta potty. It's got an electric flush and a 7.5 gallon tank, and it sits up high. It's almost like using a normal restroom. So another thing to think about, your bathroom. Another thing to think about is where you want to sleep. Do you want to sleep in a bed, an air mattress, a couch that converts? How do you want to maximize your space? You sleep 8 hours a day, we'll say, but maybe you don't take a shower every day. Maybe you take a shower every second day or third day while you're out. Maybe you're out for just an overnighter and you won't take a shower at all, depending on the climate. And maybe you're out swimming all day. You have to take all those parameters into effect before you design the vehicle that you want to build. And I'm going to do a total new build series on this concept. I thought I would just throw out this design video first, and then I'll do a build or an engineering and a build video after this. But write down that, I can't say this enough, start with a clean sheet of paper and not necessarily the vehicle you have. Toyota's a great start, a Toyota pickup truck, or the SUVs, 4Runner. Look at what you're going to do and how long you're going to be in, and what gear you want to carry. Are you going to take a kid or two, or family pets? What are you going to take with you? What kind of space do you need? For myself in the Humvee, that is something that I can live out of full time. I built that. It's a small package, 9.5 deep, but with a cab over, that helps. Another person can sleep up top while one sleeps down low. There's room for the dogs to nest under the bed. They're totally comfortable down there. There's place for food and water for them. I got a full shower, a bathroom, 26 gallons of fresh water, plus a 5-gallon jug of Life Proofs that you can take and put in a cow tank, cow feeding water from a stream, and it will purify that water for drinking. So it has a lot of redundant systems. 2 is 1, 1 is none type theory. I like that on water, and I like that on fire extinguishers. I like that on power, and I like that on heat. Humvee's got a diesel heater in it, as well as a cubic mini wood burning stove, because I like to stay warm in the winter. I like to camp in the snow in colder environments and train in that. So you have to think about that. Or do you need AC? Oscar Mike has a mini split in it, and it runs off of the solar. There is no place to plug Oscar Mike in, as well as the Humvee. It's got, the Humvee has 900 amp hours of lithium iron phosphate. Oscar Mike has 1800, 2700 watts of solar versus 800. Humvee never runs out of power, but it only runs a Starlink Mini, a AC TV, charges a computer. The refrigerator's been running in that for 3 months, and it's just absolutely never drops below 13.2. Oscar Mike is AC driven. There's a lot of systems in it that are AC where the Humvee is not. I do have a DC refrigerator, but it's upright, so every time you open the door, the cold air spills out. When you have a chest type, you open it up, all the cold air stays down, so you take out your food you need, close it up. It doesn't take it much to get back to that cold temperature. So another thing to kind of think about. Do you require a booth to sit at? Can you use your bed as a day bed? So it uses as a couch and a bed. Little things to put in that design parameters to kind of go down that list. There's several great ways to do it. If I were to start with a limited skill set and you did not want to build a habitat, a van, a small schoolie, an ambulance, and the FMTV with a communication box on it, I believe that's a 1078. I might be wrong. Hit me up in the comments and correct me if you know that, but that's a heck of a lot of truck. When I got Oscar Mike, it only had like 5,600 miles on it, and that's plugging into the computer with the diagnostic on that. So it's a very low hour, very low run, very highly maintained vehicle. Same thing with a Humvee. It's now got 1,000 hours on it. Not very much. These trucks right here, both of these will last for the rest of my lifetime and how I intend on using them. The Humvee is currently for sale. I've just bumped the price up on it to $165 because I want to get paid for my labor. Which brings us to another point, is scheduling out the money that's going to be spent on this. You can count on whatever you put on paper to be about 3 times more than what you can do. You know metal's going to be $3 or $4 grand. Insulation's going to be this, but the things you miss is like the wire connectors, the screws. You can have all the major components. The tube is Sikaflex 291. That's all I use. I don't use silicone anymore. 3M double-sided sticky tape to put everything together. All of that stuff nickels and dimes you to death. It's best not to put that in a budget and just keep pushing towards your end goal. But buying a rig that's already done that meets your needs is probably the cheaper way to go. Although it looks more expensive on paper. That's just kind of what it ends up on. Currently, the Humvee is on trailbid.com. It's open for bids right now. We'll go through that process, and then I'll go put it back on the market after that. If it doesn't sell, it'll go back on the market, ready to go. And I may end up putting it on Bring a Trailer someday also. Because for what I'm doing is I'm liquidating everything in the house, selling off all of my unnecessary equipment, and going full-time in Oscar Mike. And nothing but how-tos and gear reviews for media after this. I think I have a lot of knowledge. I have 41 years of experience of building things, using things. Started with lowering trucks to pre-runners that were campers, go fast type campers. I've done a lot of things. There's a lot of guys with better resumes than me, but I got to say that I'm sharing with this for free. I'm not charging you anything on this. So it's worth staying through the design course, the engineering course, and the build course, so you understand really that what goes into these and why there's value in building your own or buying one that someone else has built, and what to look for. Sometimes what you think is going to be something good and not going to be a problem, you have to kind of look at the fine details on how it was put together. I sourced a lot of my stuff off of Amazon and Home Depot for the build. So like if you're on the road and you need something fixed, you can stop by at Ace Hardware or a Home Depot and pick up that little thing that might have failed going down the road, a little switch panel or whatever. Amazon tracks all of that, so you can go to your order history and you're like, oh, this switch panel, you know, I hit it with a skillet or something putting something away, or I bumped into it and tore a switch off. Well, that very switch is right there and easy to replace. If you're on the road, you could do an Amazon locker somewhere and show up and pick up your item. Bringing that to that next thing, if you have built your vehicle and you're getting ready to go full time, it may be worth it to spend a little bit money on a campground that accepts Amazon orders or UPS, US Mail, FedEx. Newport Dunes does, and that's how I was able to really refine Oscar Mike into the build it is. It really needs nothing. There's always going to be something you need, but you go down this list of stuff, and you, as soon as you get this done, you go camping and you go, oh man, here's the list. Things that I don't use that you think you would need, I put in the passenger seat. I put that in the passenger seat almost every trip. And if I don't use it in the trip, then it goes from the passenger seat to the floor. And on the next trip, it goes out and goes into a little storage bin in the shop. And then after that, it goes for sale or it gets donated. Because you do not need to haul around anything that you're not going to need or use. You want to build your rig with everything you need, but as lightweight and as efficient as you can, because you're going down the road and you're always trying to fight a gross vehicle weight plus fuel mileage. And that's why I went with this wrecker. It's got a towing weight, I think, of 50,000 pounds and a gross vehicle weight of 36,000 pounds in its stock form. And I had it all stripped off. It came in through the scales when I got it at 14,000 pounds from what it said. And I built it up. It's probably somewhere around 32,000 to 36,000. I haven't weighed it yet, but springs and everything are setting right. I didn't have to do any upgrades to the suspension. Same thing with the Humvee. Humvee goes down the road nice, rides really well, because I sought out the correct platform for that end result. My previous build was a GMC Canyon adventure truck. That truck was absolutely phenomenal, and if you drove it right, and it had an intake and it had a tune on it, but if I drove it right at 72 miles an hour on cruise control on the 40 going from San Bernardino to Bullhead City, that truck would get 29 to 31 miles a gallon in the wind, or no wind, and in the wind sometimes it would drop down as low as 26, 22 at times. But when I put a rooftop tent on it, all the time it dropped my gas mileage down to 21 miles a gallon because of the parasitic drag of hitting that rooftop tent. I set that back, dropped it down, went back up to about 26, but it still wasn't the same as that 30. So as you go bigger tires and wheels and all of that, you got to keep all of that in mind. For myself, Oscar Mike gets anywhere from 8 to 10 miles a gallon. The Humvee is more like 10 to 13 miles a gallon. But I'm happy with that platform because of the ability to sit somewhere for a month or two, or the Humvee, a month, 3 weeks to a month. It can sit somewhere, and there's enough food storage, refrigerator, freezer, and water to carry you through that trip. So things to think about on that. I'm sure I have missed a whole lot, but if you have questions and comments, please hit me up down below. I'd be glad to help you with your build. No charge, just trying to build a neat community of people that overland, do expeditions, and hopefully we have a chance to meet up somewhere out in the outback. One of my concerns, or one of my things to think about and look at, is guys on the forums. There's a lot of people out there with couch experience or sitting at their kitchen table experience, because they read all the forums and they think they know a lot. Maybe they do, I don't know. Some of those ideas conflict with my thought process. You know, a lot of times it's always about gross vehicle weight. Oh, what's your gross vehicle weight on that? Well, if you design your suspension, axles, and brakes around it, it really starts to take that stock gross vehicle weight out of that equation. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh, that's what, you know, you could get pulled over and weighed, and CHP could write you a ticket from that. I have never been pulled over in any of my Overland, Expedition, box van builds. No, I've never been even looked at twice. Even driving Oscar Mike down the road, CHP goes by me, and I'm not speeding, I'm not doing anything but sitting there doing my 60 miles an hour down the road and minding my own business, and that's what they do. So I've had great luck on that. So be cautious on the forums, because there's always haters on the forums. They're gonna try to crap on what you're trying to build. But if you stalk their profile, and I have done this a few times, you notice that they don't build things. They don't have things. They just are experts from their couch or their kitchen table. So that being said, I'm not saying I'm the expert on all of this, but I'm pretty versed in this process. And I have a lot of knowledge and theories on how I put things together and what has worked over the years. I think Oscar Mike is well proven, and the Humvee is already starting to prove itself on that theory and what I like. What I love about that Humvee is where it's at right now is I can do a U-turn in the street without doing a 3-point turn. Fits in a parking spot, and it goes down the road nice. It would make somebody a really nice camper to live out full-time or part-time living, whatever you wanted to do. If it were just me and 2 dogs, being who I am, with all of my equipment, tools, and background, I like to travel in Oscar Mike, and that's why I'm keeping Oscar Mike. But if I think I was the average guy and I wanted, or girl, I've had 2 serious buyers on this right now. One's a female and one's a male. And I think I'd travel with the mountain bike, and I have room for a couple dogs, and I think that would be easy. Maybe every 5th or 6th night you wanted to do a campground, top all your stuff off, go to the store. It's an easy way to do that. A little long-winded, so I'll call this one good for now. But once again, questions, comments, I'm here for you guys. Something you want to know more about, hit me up, and I'll see what I can do to come up with some great answers. That's going to be it for now. I'm Tim Roble, and I'll catch you here next time.